Hi, you're with Julian on the Brown Note, piling through a lot of reviews just to get them out of the way. 2 comedy specials, Dave Chappelle, The Dreamer, and I'll do the Ricky Gervais one as well. They both occupy incredibly similar territory. I am a big fan of Dave Chappelle. I think he's probably been the MVP of stand-up comedy overall over the last sort of maybe of this century in a way. Others have burnt more brightly at times, but I think when it comes down to his ability to tell long-form stories that have cogent points and deeper meaning and resonance, as well as combining his own innate charisma and delivery, overall, I think he is probably being the best this century. There's a huge element of stand-up comedy. Like, there are stand-up comedians that are really promoted heavily because of the cleverness of their writing. Hannah Gadsby, who I just don't find funny, and it's not because they're not great writers. It's because I watch someone like Bill Burr, and 90% of what he says is funny, not because it's the cleverness of the writing, but because of the delivery. And I think that's a huge element. It's delivery. And I think when I watch someone like Hannah Gadsby, I just don't laugh. And it's not because the writing isn't brilliant. It's because the delivery is just, it's not like anything that Bill Burr says is funny. So Dave Chappelle has both elements. And also he's engaged in a lot of controversy due to his buttressing up against woke culture, which is unfortunately going to come up a lot in both Ricky and Dave Chappelle's reviews. I've reviewed virtually all of the modern Chappelle. So Chappelle, after the Chappelle show, kind of went into this de facto hiatus for a very long time. So you got, for what it's worth, in 2004, around the time the Chappelle show ended and he disappeared in self-imposed exile. And you got 13 years until the age of Spin. It's a long gap, and he's emerged as someone that was shortchanged on his sitcom, which is still a brilliant sitcom, which he won't let you watch, but it's still out there, to the Netflix era of him being paid $30 million plus for a gig. It's insanity, like how much money these people get per gig. And I reviewed most of them. So that first year he came back, he did The Age of Spin, Deep in Heart, Texas, Equanimity, and The Bird Revelation. I think I reviewed all of them. I haven't reviewed every single one since, but I did review The Closer from 2021, and that was at the peak of his buttressing up against trans rights issues and being called a anti-trans person and so on. And I gave that the biggest review of the lot. I thought it was the most important stand-up of the modern era, because it engaged fully with soundbite culture and cancel culture in a way that most other comedians, including Ricky Gervais, haven't done very well. He did it so well. He was like dropping one-liners that had nothing to do with the long-form joke to trigger this response where he would get quoted, and there was a lot going on in it. I said it was the least funny probably of all of the modern era stand-up specials that he'd done, but it had so much importance. There was so much really heavy material in there that I liked it the most. It was the most poetic. He's come back with The Dreamer, which has just dropped, and again calls the usual, he's made the obligatory trans jokes here and there, but nowhere near like previous specials. But it does open with the best joke in the whole thing, which is this 5-minute setup for a trans joke, which is actually the only gold tier material in the whole set. It's very well done, and that's classic Chappelle, where he goes through this rambling story and then there's a kiss off at the end, and that's set me up to believe that this was going to be something special, but it isn't, unfortunately. The targets and material here are just not as interesting. There's a lot of retread going on. He always has a theme to his specials, and here the theme of The Dreamer isn't. It's more of a mutual backslap than it is a cogent reason to exist. And he's fallen into a lot of this self-congratulatory like thigh slapping here of material that he delivers. Not to say that there isn't a lot of good material here. It's just not much great material here. I thought he closes on what he's best at, which is a 20-minute joke, a long form joke, which is interesting. But because the payoff is just talking about how he has dreams and he dreams strongly, it's not as interesting as his other long form payoffs at all. I think this set really is the weakest of the 5 previous ones that I've reviewed. It is intermittently very funny, but if you're expecting a sequence like the Juicy Smollett sequence, nothing here is remotely close to that level of laugh out loud with a lot of truth backing it up. And even the controversial stuff isn't that interesting here. There are side gags here and there which are obvious but funny, where he makes fun of how he opens his wife's phone, opens his Asian wife's phone by pulling a racist joke, and then she does the same back to him. And some of those things are laugh out loud funny, but not very much here is. I gave those 4 specials an average, I think, 8 out of 10. And I gave the closer a higher score. I think I gave it a 9 out of 10 because it really felt like it was, instead of like representing the zeitgeist, it was almost like crashing into it and reforming it around him. He's proven to be an incredibly durable antidote to the idea of cancel culture because he's never been impacted at all. I just felt this was a stopgap. Like someone had asked him and said, we're going to give you $25 million, $30 million to stand on stage for an hour, and he didn't really have a reason to do it this time. All of the other times he's done it, there's been really interesting stuff on race and gender and sexuality, whether or not you agreed with him. But here it was just a little bit less of a reason to exist, and the A-tier material was scarce. So I think, unfortunately, The Dreamer is the weakest of the stand-up specials that I've seen since he's made his comeback. It really did feel like treading water this time. So overall, unfortunately, I'm going to give it 6 out of 10, which is by far the lowest score.